Okay. So like, we are covering the P2P part. So vendor is one of the most important setup. I believe you all can see my screen, right?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. So when we say vendor or supplier, so basically there are three levels. We can say profile, address, then we have site. So supplier basically is the person who is, providing us the item or the service. And in response, we are going to pay him, right? Now to pay any of the invoice which vendor is going to raise, first of all, we are going to record it in our system, and then we are going to pay him. So invoice is must. There is one now another concept of one-time supplier and other things, but as a thumb rule, vendor will provide us an invoice. Guys, be on mute, please. Okay, so we are going to pay him basis that invoice we have recorded. So now this vendor is at the instance level. Okay, so there could be many BUs, many LEs, multiple. So once you have vendor in the system, he or she or organization is visible at the instance level, but site is at the business unit level. Now this is a very important point. So actually when we are paying for a vendor, we are paying at the site level. For example, let's say there is a supplier, ABC supplier. Okay. Now, if we have created this supplier has an office in India, let's say in US and UK. So we have three different addresses and site. This is one of our site, which is called ABC1, ABC2, ABC3, right? Now, let's say for India, we have purchased something from ABC supplier. Okay, so now when we are going to pay him, that will be for India, and the site which we are going to use, that will be ABC1. So pay site for this vendor will be ABC1. Same ways, our company can purchase something in US from ABC supplier. At that time, the pay site is ABC2, right? So like this, site is very important, and site is at the business unit level. Now, India BU can't see ABC2 and ABC3 sites. They can only visible only for these users which are sitting in US and UK. Okay. So this is about vendor. So we have lots of configurations and setups at the supplier level, which we are going to see. Bank setup, and there are lots of other configuration and setups at the vendor level. Okay, fine. Over to you, Rahul. Now you are the host.
Yeah, thanks, Manish, for giving that basic overview. Oh, now let me know if you are able to see my screen. This is Rahul.
Yes, Rahul, we can see.
Okay. So now today's session, we are covering how the suppliers got created in Oracle Fusion application or Oracle Fusion Cloud application. So you can create suppliers in the application. There are multiple methods, right? So that is very important for us to understand how these suppliers are got created in the system. So the first method of creating a supplier is directly you go and individually you create the suppliers uh, in the system. So there is a web page where you create a supplier directly. You go and the who has the authorized access, like a buyer or the procurement agent, they can create, or the supplier administrator owner's responsibility guys can create the suppliers directly. Now, second other option is internal supplier registration process. In this, there is a approval process required. Okay. In this, that the request of supplier or onboarding any vendor or a supplier in the system or in the business is requested internally by a procurement team or a supplier administration team, and they will raise the request on the behalf of the supplier itself or vendor itself, and that goes into an approval process. So all the required information is there or not. Like when you are creating a vendor, as mentioned by Manish, like you have to create the profile information, you have to create the address, you have to create the contacts, you have to create the site. So all the tax registration information. So those are mandatory fields. What are the services it provides? What items it can source or supply to us? So all that information is correct. So it's a whole an exercise in the business. It's not that it's simply just create a supplier. That's not. It's an approval process. It's a overall business process, right? Onboarding a supplier. Now that is can be internally been initiated. Another point is directly the supplier who wants to be engaged with us within our company, they can go into the supplier portal, or we will share with him the external URL, and he will himself request for registration. That is called external supplier registration, and he will himself field the profile information and everything, and we will validate internally and then approve that okay, everything is fine, and he is now been a partner with us. Okay. Lastly, we can also upload supplies through Excel FBDI templates. That is one time if migration has to happen through go live time and all, you can do that. Okay, so these are the basic methodologies through which vendors can be created or onboarded into the system. So please be on mute. Uh, so next, we have to understand one concept here. There are two types of suppliers we can create. Okay, prospect suppliers and spend authorized suppliers. Okay, so initially, like any third party or a vendor which we want to engage with, maybe we don't want to engage for purchasing or directly we don't want to procure anything from him. We just it's just for RFQ or sourcing the request for quotation kind of supplier. Okay, so in that case, it is just a prospect supplier. Initially, we will create him just for prospect supplier, and then later on, if everything is fine, the quotations, if we agreed on, then we will try to convert him into as a spend authorized supplier, and then we can create a purchase order against him in the system. So only for spend authorized. So the word itself is self-explanatory. Spend authorized means this supplier is authorized. We can spend against this supplier. So that's what the meaning is, and we can raise the purchase order and can create payments for this supplier. So in Fusion we have two types of supplier. One is prospect supplier and another is spend authorized supplier. So from prospect to spend authorization we can do. Now the question comes, can the spend authorized can become a prospect supplier? As per my understanding, that is not possible. If once it is spend authorized, then you have to end it, or you cannot revert to make it prospect supply. But I am not 100% sure. Okay, so that is an exercise for all of you. Can a prospect supplier be become a spend authorized, and spend authorized can become a prospect supplier or not? Okay, so check with in Google or wherever you want to. Okay, and let us know. This is a query for all of you. Okay. Uh, Now, after this basic information, there is some prerequisites we need to create a system, to create a supplier in the system. We should have some prerequisites. Okay. The foremost is supplier manager role, the user who has to have the access to create suppliers or the function, then he should have the role of supplier manager. There is one more role called supplier administrator. So for approvals and all, everything will go to supplier administrator as such, but you can modify the approval process also for registration process and all. So one, you have should be a supplier manager role. Another prerequisite is employee as procurement agent. So those who may have worked on EBS R12, they may know about buyer. So procurement agent is similar to buyer, what we have in EBS as in EBS R12. So procurement agent is a purchasing officer kind of role in the business, who will be managing the purchase orders, requisitions and demands in procurement. So he who can create supplier sites. So the most important role he has to perform is to create supplier sites in the system. And then there is supplier numbering should be on this. So these are some of the prerequisites. If you have all this in place, then you can start your process of supply creation. So this is just a steps of supplier creation, which we will show in the system directly now. Uh, so let me go into the application and first let me show you the prerequisite things. Uh, what all I mean to say in that. So first step is you should have a role of supplier manager. So if I go to tools security console, right? So I hope everybody is able to listen to me, right? Clearly.
Yes, Rahul, yes.
Yes, sir.
So this is my user. NOE. So I was just trying to show you that this particular user from which I have logged in, Noah Miller or something. I don't know why it is not coming. Hmm. So yeah, so Noah Miller. So this is the user through which I am logging right now. So this person should have a supplier manager role assigned to this person. So supplier administrator, supplier manager, these are the roles which are required to perform this function of supplier management and creation. Okay. So I hope you all may be knowing how to add those roles. So if I go to edit and add roles, so I can go and add roles from here. So I will try to search like supplier manager, and whatever role we want to add, you can select and uh, add this role to this. So this is how you can. So this is the first step of, as a part of the prerequisite, you should have the required rules. Then the next step is, which is important, is to have set up procurement agent. So I go into the setup and maintenance. Then I just try to search one of the tasks like manage procurement agent. So this is under payables. You have one task called manage procurement agents. If I just click on this and try to search with Miller. So this person or this employee. So it should be an employee also. The user should, which we have created, should be an employee attached to it. So this is already, this Miller Noah is already a procurement agent here. Okay. And if I just try to see what all functions he can do as a procurement agent, I can check this. For this particular business unit, US1 business unit, Noah Miller can perform all these activities as a procurement officer or a procurement agent. So manage supplier. So this is enabled for him, allowed. Okay. So he can manage requisitions, he can create purchase orders, agreements, and all these documents, what all activities he can do as a procurement procurement officer. All this you can select. The most important thing for supplier site creation. So unless and until this person is not been given this manage supplier access, he is not able to create the sites. Although he can create the supplier address or can initiate supplier registration request, but he will not be able to manage the supplier sites and all. Okay, so that is another prerequisite. Uh, then one more last thing as a prerequisite is your supplier number should be enabled at the instance level. So specify uh, hmm, so I was just trying to search where we can manage supplier number. Although this instance, this is a test instance and all, it is already done. So all this step is not required. So so I'm not able to find at this point of time. That's okay because this setup is already done. But if you are getting any errors, you have to perform this task also, specifying the supplier number. It's just a number you have to initiate. What is the first number of supplier number the system should generate? So when the supplier got created, the supplier number will automatically got created. Okay. So with this, the prerequisites will be done. Now I will come into the actual creation, supplier creation process. So as Manesh has already covered the overall elements, supplier elements like the supplier profile, the supplier address, and the supplier side. These are the three elements of supplier creation. Okay. So supplier profile and supplier address is primarily at the global level and supplier site is at business unit level. So if I go into procurement offering, under the procurement, once I got this supplier manager role, I will be able to see this supplier tab here. So I will go into supplier, and from the right hand side, the task related to transactions and all, you have to come here at the right hand side and click on this. So the first I will just try to register one supplier directly. So this will be treated as internal request. Okay. So I go into this and say register a supplier. And now I can give the uh, first the company name. So for example, RAL Supplier 2. So request region is a new supply source. So we want a supplier from which we want to buy something. So as you mentioned here, like business relationship, as I mentioned earlier, so you can create either prospect or spend authorize. Okay. So both you can create. So I am right now creating directly as a spend authorized supplier. Okay. The business relationship results some law data, that's okay. So uh, now what kind of tax organization type? Is it a corporate or an individual supplier? So it's a big corporation, suppose. Then the important thing which I have to give is the tax registration number.
Rahul, what is this spend authorized?
So what kind of relationship you have with the supplier? As I mentioned in the earlier statements, there are two types of supplier, right? One is prospective supplier, which is only used for RFQs and all. It's just an initial relationship. You can't create purchase orders, or you can't really don't do any spending against this supplier, right? It's just a prospective supplier. Okay. You just
Okay.
in the initial engagement with this third party. And spend authorization is the person, actual suppliers against
So,
which we can create purchase orders and
so
payments.
yeah, basically, prospective we cannot create an invoice, huh? Or we cannot create a
No,
purchase order.
no, yeah, correct. You are right. Right. So
Yeah,
these are
yeah.
the two types of, this is the feature of specific feature for Fusion application. Okay. So the prospect supplier can be now changed to spend authorization. There is a approval process and all. Okay. But, or you can directly create a spend authorized supplier. So though that's the thing. Okay. So let me, so I'm to give tax registration information. So like suppose this is for country. So there are some tax registration IDs you have to provide. Okay. So I just given some tax registration information. Now every supplier should have one contact. So let me try to give some contact information. Like I am the contact for this supplier. Email. Right. Now, now you see here you have to give like create a user account. Okay. So this particular contact, so one contact you have to mandatorily create, and you give if you have a supplier portal and all, then these are the these are the access he will automatically will receive. And the account, like the employee user account which we have seen, similar kind of account will automatically system will create for this this supplier, and he will get the details of the user login and password to this email. So I say, okay, he is just a supplier self-service administrator, and I will say, okay. So this contact is got added. The next element we have to give is the address. So this is the address. I'm creating a new address, or you can search an existing address if you have, but this is the new address I will create. RAL Noida 1, or so I'm in that country which is working as a location here. So you can put the address line, then choose any city. Pin code. So now here you see what is the purpose of this address. Is it for ordering remit to or RFQ only? So they, if you don't choose ordering, then there will, you cannot create purchase order against it, or you cannot order to this supplier to using this address. The site which is using this address, you will not be able to pick this. So this is the business purpose of this particular address. So generally, if you have a full-fledged supplier, you will choose all the three. Remit 2 is for payments. If you want to make payments to this particular address, and is this address is only used for RFQs, quotations, and sourcing purposes, not for ordering and all. So that is what the require. You can choose the purpose of this address. I will say, okay, so I have created the contact, I have created the address. Now, lastly, I just have to choose business classification is just what kind of business classification. I'm not doing this. This is not mandatory, but product and services you have to choose. So what kind of supplies you are expecting to do from it. So I will choose one category, item category, and say apply and okay. So with this, now I have completed the high level profile and address and all, and I will say register. Okay. So with this, uh, RAL supplier 2 request will go for approval. So let's see what will happen. So the registration request was submitted. So it will take little bit time to go and see reflected into my system, the request. So I will see get the notification of the request. So if I want to search here, pending approval, if I refresh it here, uh, so let me try to search this supplier. What is the status? So if I go to manage suppliers, and I will say RAL supplier 2 and try to search this. So here it is. The supplier number got generated. Uh, this still, I believe it will be in the pending status. So all the information I'm getting here right now. So this is what information we have given, right?
Cái
Yes.
cái
Yeah.
mắm mèo cái
Anybody asking any question? So I'm just trying to search my supply, which I have just, so pending for approval, it is giving the status right now. So if I just check the notification here. Okay, so now I think I got this notification that uh, my request. So because here the configuration is something like that, that it is self-approved. Otherwise, you can create your approval hierarchies for this process also. But this is a self-approved process right now. So this spend authorized supplier is now approved and it is now got created into the system. So after some time, if I will just research it, I will be able to see this supplier. Okay, so this is how the first process is. I have created through registration process um, the supplier, the internal request, right? Now I can, as I told you, one more method is like you can go directly and create supplier. So if we go, I click on create supplier. So this is directly I'm going into the supplier. So like it will be more or less similar information you have to give. The supplier name is RL supplier
Why we
3.
have two options, Rahul, like register supplier and create supplier? Register will be go for approval, one
Correct.
thing,
Yeah.
and
So even in the registration, if you want, like if you want some validation, as I told you, you have to create a supplier profile altogether, right? Is the tax registration, suppose most of the real scenarios, like in some countries, supplier tax registration information should be correct. Okay.
okay,
And you want to validate it before everything is fine, then only you want that the full and final supplier should be created. So all that registration process, it's a registration process of your
okay,
company. Okay. You
fine,
can
fine,
have a questionnaire, you can attach a questionnaire to this, or what all mandatory information you want from your supplier. So, uh, and the supplier can directly also go and from the supplier portal, external request, right? You can directly go and fill all this form and all this information and the request come to you and then you validate, you reject it, or you ask more information and you can approve it, right? So all this is as a part of a registration process. Creation is directly you are creating like what you do in your R12 EBS. You directly create in the suppliers. There is no as such process. Okay. So
okay,
both
fine, not
both the
bad.
things are given here.
Thank you, Rahul.
So if I just given the name, again similarly it is asking what kind of supplier you want to create. So spend what is the type of organization? I say individual, for example. Country or tax country is where it is registered as a supplier. So, so I'm choosing those countries because I know this tax registration numbers sometimes have validations. Okay, I think in US we have 8-digit numbers for tax registration. So otherwise it will show through error. So once I just create it is go land me into another page where I have to mm, give other informations like address and all. So this is now my supplier is then address. So I will add an address here. So this is the second method, which is directly I'm creating the supplier. So now I will not create a new address. I will try to search if I can get the old address. I don't know. It should actually allow me to use the existing address, but anyways, so let's create one more address here. So all the steps are same now, even it is registration or this, but just it is giving me directly similar the what is the purpose of this address. Save. So address got created. Now site. So I can now so let's first create the contact. So once it is all the things are got created, then and the supplier got created, then only I will be able to create the site. So I will show even in our previous supplier, we have not created a site if you remember. So once the supplier got created, we will be able to create the sites as well. Similarly, I am now creating the contact again.
So why we are giving the access to the supplier here? In register supplier, we have given the access, right? I mean, some
External supplier. If you
yeah,
want that external registration process should be there, definitely you can give, right? Because it's not that in the system you will approve it, then only it will be active supplier.
so
You don't
normally our supplier will log in the page, and
correct.
what he does exactly, like if he logins, then
So once he will log in and whatever information we are providing here, right? He will provide what is his tax registration number, in which products he deal, what are the classification. So what are the contact information, everything what we are entering manual. So why we waste our resources as a company
okay,
to
okay,
fill all this, right?
till completion of registration only he do. Then later on he don't need any access, I guess, right?
No,
Because
he
we
will
will.
need access because if you are using supplier portal as a, so it is an integration. So whatever purchase orders you raise, he will be able to see in his portal all those
Mhm.
purchase orders. He will be able to see his what all payments are done or self-service, self-billing and everything processes. So supplier is an integral part, right, of our company. So it's a third-party company, but we will give him access to perform his activities, or it's we are giving that platform to him
Okay,
so that
okay.
he will. So they are like even in your Amazon or whatever. Why then you will ask why they are giving you access to see your orders, sales orders,
Correct.
something like
Understood that.
that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So this is all now integrated. Now it's all partnership. It's nothing external. Correct. So I was just trying to create the order and mm, create the contact here, and I will say save and close. So this is the skeleton of the supplier we have just created. Okay. One through internal registration request process. Another is directly I'm creating the supplier. Okay. So that's how you now this is already now been created. So I will say submit. So again, this is one process, one thing. Now, so one important part which is now left here is how you will create the supplier side. Okay. So let's try the existing supply which we have created. So if I go to manage suppliers and try to open the previous supplier which I have just created. So this is the supplier. I will say edit. So this, and now let's see if I can create the site for this supplier. So now this is allowing me to create the supplier. So I will say plus. Are you getting, guys? Now I am trying in the similar supplier. Initially, I have created the supplier only, right? The
Yes, yes.
profile and all, address, contact, and everything. Now I am trying to create the uh,
After you save
site.
and close, this plus button was enabled, right?
Right, right. So, so now this address is automatically coming. So I'm using this address only. Okay, for the site also I'm using the same address. Uh, and again, for the site also, it is asking me for what purposes you want to use this site. Purchasing, for payment, and for sourcing only. So at the site level and for address level, at the both the levels, it asks for the purpose of this. Uh, so if I just say save, and then you you have now multiple options you can give here. So for payments, for example, what kind of payment methods this supplier will choose. So you can choose any. So this we will see in later in the payment methods, how you will create multiple payment methods and bank accounts. That is separate activity we will do. So payment methods and bank accounts and all you can assign to it. Then what are the invoicing processing methods you have? So for what are the controls, what kind of holds, default holds and terms, payment terms for this supplier. So these are all self-explanatory setups that you can go through with this. And what is the invoice currency, invoice amount limit if at the supplier level, how the invoice match will happen based on receipt or order. So these are different controls for procure to pay cycle for this supplier. So all these setups you can do for each supplier. Okay. Uh, so these are the things you can give. Some of the things will automatically default from your financial options, payable options to the supplier, and then you can change it at the supplier level also, supplier address or supplier site level. Okay. Are you getting my point here? If you remember in the last session, we have given some options which at the financial options or the payable options for
Yes,
defaulting.
yes.
So from there, it will come to the supplier site, supplier address, the supplier site. And then here also you can change. So when you book the transactions, either the purchase order or the invoice, all those values will start defaulting from the supplier side.
What is this hold invoices and the holds tab? Hold unmatched invoices.
So if you want to hold, suppose you are blacklisted this supplier site or supplier, then you can hold all these invoices.
Oh, okay, okay,
If you just flag it, then all the invoices related to this supplier will be on hold.
okay, okay. Understood.
So you go through all this. These are all small here and there, those things, all that stuff. Okay, so these are the basic setups you can also do at uh, supplier site level. Okay, for receiving, what is the receipt routing, direct delivery, inspection required. So this is a very important concept. However, receipt routing. So in procure to pay, just I will, you have just seen this. So let me try to explain this. Uh, so direct delivery is basically there are two-stage process when you when you procure the item and send it to your actual end use person. So for example, I am an employee of a company, I need a pen, just a simple example, or a stationery, right? Which is directly sourced from supplier. Not, it is not available in the inventory. So first it will be received into my warehouse and then it will be delivered to me, right? To my desk. So it's a two-stage delivery. So direct delivery is something like both these two stages will be directly, it will come to me. Inspection required is something like, is this pen is correct or not, the quality check, if the product required any quality check and all, then inspection required step you will do. Standard receipt is you will first receive and then you deliver it. Okay. So it's the both the two steps you have to do. And inspection required, you have to in between, you before you do the receive and deliver, you have to do inspection also. Okay. So those kind of, for this particular supplier, you say that this is the receipt routing method. Okay. So this is more related to how you want to receive, more procurement side, not from the finance point of view, but procurement perspective. So that's why I'm not giving more details here. But so rest when we do the AP invoicing and payments, all these payments and all definitely will be covered at that time, right? So now we have completed the site creation also. So with this, like uh, we have seen more or less how you can create the suppliers in the system. Okay. So I think that's all from the supplier. It's looking very simple as because I'm just showing you the process, but if once you do yourself or once you try to cover this, definitely you have to do the prerequisites, then you have to create the supplier profile and then the site and all will be done,
Yeah.
right?
Rahul, I noticed one thing. Inside US business unit got assigned, I guess, right? And
This is
register
okay.
level, registration supplier level time, I don't see that.
So I just hold on. So supplier site level, I think assignment I have not done here
See
or.
this one, US one business unit, it's there, right, in the left side. Yeah.
Hmm. So the procurement business unit is already assigned here. So just let me go into edit. Hmm. Yeah, so the assignment has happened automatically in this, or site assignments, you have to do it here as well. So this is just a procurement BU assigned, but actual assignment you have to do it here as a client BU and all
The
at the
same
site
thing
level.
we didn't do it in the registration part, right? Registration supplier. So
Yeah,
is it
this is at the business unit level, right? So you have to create assign these business unit, build to business unit and ship to location and all in the site assignment thing. So procurement view is something different than your client view to whom it is serving actually. Who is your client view and this is a little bit advanced concept. We will see. If you want, we will have to discuss it separately as a separate session. So there are so in Fusion you have multiple BU relationships. There is a client
okay?
BU, there is a procurement BU, there is a so sourcing and consuming kind of relationship. Okay. So in that way, you have to assign those business units, right? Otherwise,
So
this is just. Hmm.
liability and prepayment, some accounting options is here, right, in the right side. So I remember in table option, I guess you told
Hmm.
us liability account will be picked from there. So that time I asked you, I
So
don't remember exactly, but so if I give here that liability account, so it will pick from here or it will pick from that.
yeah, it will. If you will give it here, it will pick from here at the site level.
So even though the accounting I was given in the payment option or the table option also,
Correct,
so it
correct,
will be override.
correct. Correct.
Okay. Okay.
If you don't give it here, it's not a mandatory, right? Then it will pick from there.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are the things like once you book and do some more practice in that way, definitely that's a good observation. So all this you will definitely for each and every tab, whenever you go through, you can go into details and you can discuss with us as well. And whatever best we can. So yes, liability distribution, you can give it here as well. So you can override for this particular business unit or bill to BU if you're choosing. Uh, okay. Otherwise, it will be from the financial options. Okay. So I think so. The gist of this particular session is to what are the methods you have primarily to create suppliers, how you can create supplier side, what are the elements of the supplier. So what are the business purpose, like address has a business purpose, site has a business purpose. You have to give the contact. The contact will be having your user will be created in the system and all that stuff is there, right? So with this, I believe you people have got the idea in
Yeah.
totality what is supplier side address, and how you can high level can create suppliers. So that's the idea of this session for now. And any
So in
further question?
Fusion, do we have an option like one-time supplier kind of one-time payment? I saw somewhere.
Yeah,
So
one time payment is there. So
so
this
do we have
is
an option like to create one-time supplier for temporary basis like that?
uh, I don't foresee any requirement of why we need. If you have created, you ended the site one time. But so one-time payments will be directly done through a payment request. It's like ad hoc level. You will give the information and directly do it. You really don't need any supplier to be created here.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, anyways, we will see that because I have also not run on that process as of now. But that's what my thought is like. One-time payments you directly do as a payment request and it will be done. You really don't need to create any supplier for that here.
Okay,
Otherwise,
Rahul.
what is the purpose of having one-time payment?
Thank you for the explanation, Rahul. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's all from my end, unless until you have any other questions.
Yeah, please need an act as that I want to practice actually.
Sure. Yeah, we will
And the
connect for
documents
each.
also, manage some documents also. Any step-by-step documents or anything, any kind of documents, if you have, please share
Uh,
it.
yeah, we will try to do that and whatever we can. But
Thank you. Thank you.
definitely we will load these sessions in YouTube, so you can go through that and you can reach out to us anytime. That's what we can commit as of now. And on the instance also, we will reach out to you individually or we will share that as well. Yeah. Anything, Manesh, you want to add? Otherwise, we are done.
No, that's it. Fine, Rahul. Thank you very much. So let's connect next week and we will upload all the videos. Okay,
Yeah,
guys?
sure.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
Thank you.
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you,
for
Rahul.
all. Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.